move through the rest of the book very quickly. I'm just going to choose a few highlights. If I can ask you to move to page 29 for a moment. Actually, it's not page 29. I made a mistake here. It's page 49. This incredible picture of Sidney Zoltak and his righteous among the nations, the person who hid him in his barn for 14 months, Sigmund Krinsky. And Sigmund Krinsky is so fond of Sidney, as you can see in that picture when they're about to embrace each other. If you put your phone on the picture of Sidney Zoltak, you will come to a story he's telling to the children in Treblinka. Treblinka is a death camp with 17,000 stones. He looks to the students and says, the worst part of the Holocaust was when I came back to my village of Shemetich after the war, and not a single one of my friends was alive. Every single one had been murdered. You young people, you students want to have a class reunion? The only place I can have a class reunion is here, amidst the stones of Treblinka. What a powerful moment. And as I said, if you put your phone on the picture, it will be taken to him telling the story to the students in Treblinka. Let's move to page 52. Here you have an amazing picture of Joe Mandel and an American liberator. Joe Mandel, Holocaust survivor from Toronto, his entire life he felt regret because he hadn't thanked the person who liberated him. He comes on a march in 2012, and by sheer coincidence, a group of American liberators come, they bump into each other, they embrace each other, and Joe finally got to thank his liberator. And his words were, now I feel I can live forever. And I often say this, the March of Living is not just about studying history, it's about creating history. And we have the good fortune to see these incredible moments always throughout the trip where moments happen that we're not just studying the past, we're creating a new reality. Let's move to page 58. And there's a beautiful quote from Faggy Libman, far left-hand corner. She says, after the war, I learned if I'd hate in my heart, I would not have room for love. I'd hate in my heart, there would no more room for love, which is a beautiful sentiment. On page 60, we have Max Glauben, who teaches the students, please tell my story, but make sure to tell my story in a way that doesn't cause the same hatred that was done to us, to other people. On page 63, we have Pinchas Gutter, a well-known Toronto Holocaust survivor, who was actually quoted by Barack Obama in a speech a few years ago. That's how powerful his words are. Moving right along as quickly as we can. We have on page 70, Helena Birnbaum, A True Love's Kiss. She was pushed into the gas chambers. She thought she was going to die, but she was luckily saved because the gas chambers were working that day. But her last thought was, I'm going to go to my death, never having experienced a true love's kiss. Powerful, powerful emotions, at least really connect to young people. On the right, we have Nate Leipziger. One of the quotes on the march he says is, I don't hate because hate poisons the one who does the hating. On the right, we have David Shentow, who comes on the March of the Living. He's standing underneath the gates of Auschwitz-Birkenau, and he's so overwhelmed by what he's experiencing, he can't move. And he was afraid to go in. And two students took him by the arm and said, David, you'll walk in together with us, and you'll walk out together with us. On page 78 and 79, we have pictures of blind people and their guide dogs coming on the March of the Living. You, of course, understand the symbolism. The Nazis didn't just murder Jews, they murdered people with disabilities, and they often used dogs viciously trained in the process. We came back with the exact opposite message. The message that we're here to accept all people, and we don't train dogs to kill, we train dogs to help them. On page 85, we have a survivor. Anybody recognize a survivor? I'll give you a hint, he's just sitting in this room. It's Bill Gleed. And there's a beautiful story about Bill Gleed coming to Auschwitz-Birkenau, standing in front of the 10,000 students saying, you know, there's a tradition of kever avos. What is kever avos? We go to a grave of our ancestors. We put a stone on the grave and we say, we're here. We love you. We remember you. That's what the stone means. And Bill looks out on the 10,000 young people and says, I'm here in Auschwitz-Birkenau. There are no stones. There are no memorials. There are no matzevas. How do I remember my people? How do I remember my family? All of them were murdered here in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And then he says to the young people, you are my stones of memory. You are here to say, we love you, we'll remember you, we'll never forget you. What a beautiful moment from the March of the Living. If we move along, we have on page 92 where Rabbi Lau, Chief Rabbi of Israel, reunites with Robbie Wasteman from Vancouver. They hadn't seen each other since the war. An incredible moment on the March of the Living. And on page, it's on a page number here, but I think it's page number 95, we have Anita Eckstein, who one of the most moving stories from her was on the March of the Living with her daughter Ruth. She looks back and sees 10,000 blue jackets and looks at her daughter and says, "You see, Hitler did not win." And her daughter and granddaughter are here today. So a big hand for Ruth's children and Anita's grandchild as well. And of course Anita would be here, but she's in Florida. She did come back for the March of the Living Shabbaton, which is incredibly impressive. We have just a couple more stories before we conclude. On page 97, here's an example of the power of the march. We have Eva Geldman, who remembers when she was in Auschwitz-Birkenau, her mother was being beaten by the Nazis who were not letting go of her. Her mother said, "But I can't let you go." She says, "Go, go." "I'll see you later," Eva says to her mother. Mother says, "What about my glasses? I'll give you your glasses later when I see you later." Of course, she never sees her mother later. Her mother ends up in the gas chambers. When Eva comes on the March of the Living and she sees this whole display case of glasses, hundreds, thousands of glasses, she says, "My mother's glasses, they must be in there." On page 102, we have a picture of a young Polish student coming on the March of the Living with a Polish flag. The largest delegation of people on the March of the Living are actually Polish Christian students. Tremendous affection and solidarity we find from the Polish people on the march. And on the right side, we have a young person saying, "I'm marching for everyone." So I want to come to the close of the book and explain to you the last poem I chose for the book. I chose it for a reason. And I often say this. You can spend the rest of your life trying to understand the Holocaust, and you never will. Why it happened, how it happened, it's such an incredibly difficult subject to understand. But there's another question, besides for why it happened, that I can't answer. And that is, how do we respond? And we respond by building the exact opposite world that the Nazis wanted to create. They wanted to create a world of endless hatred, endless friction, endless war, endless animosity. We'll do the exact opposite, create a world of endless love and kindness and compassion. And I believe those lessons are transmitted to the young people on the march. And that's why this is the last poem in the book. This is on page 128. "And still I cannot hate. I see bones and hair, shoes and glasses, while a Nazi hell ruled by the devil's brother, but still I cannot hate. I see women's brushes, men's to lace him, and babies' tattered clothing, but still I cannot hate. I see splintered boards where people laid their weary bodies to rest. I see where people slaved and tried to exist, and still I cannot hate. I see the death and destruction, but still I cannot hate. I won't continue this tragedy. I won't spread the disease. I won't fan the flames that hate like this inspires." Isn't that amazing? A 17-year-old girl on the March of the Living is teaching us that no matter what she sees, all the horrific scenes, she will still not hate, because we're here to build a much better world than existed many years ago. So thank you for listening to this presentation and for going through the book with me page by page. There's so much other richness and incredible stories here. Take the time to read it. And I'd like to now invite Kim to sing a very special song for us. And I think we'll do Legacy. This is one of the big songs of the March of the Living, one of the favorite songs from the kids. Legacy from the March of the Living.